Greetings and salutations, and welcome back to the channel, or if this is your first time, welcome to the channel. I'm DM Inverse. I've been a Dungeon Master and also a D&D player since the 90s when I first got into it, and took a break for a while, got back into it around 2018 when my kids got interested in it, and my wife played along with us for one game and then said, this isn't really so much for me. So I've been playing with the kids, running my own campaign on Roll20 for about 2 years, and looking at starting to do some more with it now and doing like an open table concept and things like that. So yeah, welcome. Basically, this channel is hopefully what I'm trying to build here is a community for casual tabletop role-playing gamers, mostly focused on Dungeons and Dragons, but you know, possibly some other things too. Uh, really thinking about things like pickup games and open table campaigns, West Marches style, kind of taking a diversion away from the traditional D&D campaigns that go on and on and on for many sessions with the same core group of players, which is what I've been running for the last couple of years. Uh, since I first got into it, things worked out really well. I made some new friends in the campaign. They introduced me to their friends. I started playing in some games that they were running and through the network and had a lot of fun with it. I ended up getting onto one server that was a Discord chat-based server that ran with Avre, which is a Discord bot that handles a lot of the D&D rules and dice rolls and things like that. So it was pretty helpful. And through that met the late Justin Woolen, who was a inspiration for storytelling and sharing these stories with friends and developing the world building. So that was a lot of fun, and this whole project is, in a way, sort of in memory of him, trying to do the same sorts of things that he did with bringing people together. So really hoping that this will work out well. The plans for things coming up, going to do a Roll20 tutorial so that people can see what Roll20 is like if you've never actually tried it before. You may think about checking it out. There's some other good virtual tabletops like Foundry, there's Fantasy Rounds, I believe Dungeon Fog has a mode where you can share maps with it. There's Owlbear Rodeo. But I like Roll20 mostly because you can get into it for free to try it out and feel your way around and see what features you like and don't like. And the integration with the Dungeons and Dragons rule set is pretty good on it. They have a good character sheet system for it that you can use. And it has a good system for finding games and getting into games and inviting people into games. If you're trying to build your own friend group and community online, it's a good tool for it. And I'm also thinking about doing things like Discord bots to do something similar to Avre, where you'd be able to play D&D in the chat, roll dice in the chat, things like that. So kind of pie in the sky at this point, but hopefully it'll work out well. Try it out and see how it goes. So I think we'll start with Roll20. Bring you over to there. Okay, so if you go to the website that you see up at the top here, roll20.net, you can see this is the page that it brings you to. We set the table, you play, and there's a button to create a free account. It won't ask you for any money up front or anything like that. So when you hit this, right now I've got it running incognito, so it thinks I'm a new person. You see this form field. You've probably seen things like this before when you're creating accounts online. First and last name, email address, come up with a password and confirm it. Make sure that you use an original password that you don't use on other sites for security. You can opt to sign into their newsletter or not. have to check out the terms of service, and then you hit that create account button, and then you're good to go from there. Let me close this out, and I'll show you what it looks like when you've actually logged in and signed up for it. Oop. That's my script. That is the wrong window. It's still there. It's still there. Okay. So here's the correct window. So you can see when you first log in, you get these boxes: create your first game, use our looking for group tool. That's the one I mentioned where you can find games that are looking for players. And there's the learn with the tutorial. So that's what I'll be trying out tonight to see how that works. So here we go. Now, this takes a little while to load up, so I'm not actually going to click it. I've actually prepared one. This is like a cooking show where they have the cake already cooked in the oven waiting to be pulled out. So this is what it'll look like once you actually get the tutorial running. Actually, let me see here. I think I've gotten too far into it already. We reload. So you will actually get to see what it looks like as it loads up. Welcome to Roll20. Would you like to play through the tutorial? Yes, I would. Let's play through the tutorial. So, this is your very first welcome. Welcome to Roll20. Welcome to the starship Quantum Roll. This vessel will be your guide to the wonderful world of Roll20. Let's have a quick look around to get started. Zoom in using the slider, or use the eyeglass tool over your toolbar on the left for a closer look. So you can see there's this eyeglass magnifier tool. It's currently at 100%. We can jack it up to 200%, zoom way in on it. You can also use this slider over here on the right side. You can hit minus to step out a little bit. You can grab it and drag if you want to see more of it. And you see there's this little thing that says your character. We'll find out about that in a moment. Hit next to continue on here. Well, actually, before we hit next, let's try something a little more complicated. The tutorial doesn't actually show you how to do this, but I know Roll20 fairly well, so I can give you a trick to make it be a little bit less quiet in here. There's a music jukebox feature up over here on the top right, and when I click on that, it says Jukebox. Jukebox lets the game master play background music and sounds that everyone can hear. So if I had other players in this game with me right now, they'd be able to hear it as well. So what I'll do is click on Manage Audio, and that'll pop up a window where we can search for tracks. And if we go to Incompetech, that's Kevin MacLeod's website where he has a lot of royalty-free music that you can use in your games and streams and things. You'll probably recognize some of the music if we look for, let's look for Monkey. Monkey's a good one. You've probably heard this before. Yeah, if you've ever been on TikTok or YouTube, you've probably heard that song before. So let's find another one. Let's look for something a little more appropriate for background music, like a lounge kind of thing. Ultra lounge. That goes well with a space theme. This seems to be a space game, so we'll add this to the game. And you might have noticed it's kind of loud in the preview. There isn't a volume control in the preview to let you hear what it sounds like. And there's a master volume controller in the personalization, which is this gear icon up in the toolbox here. So let me see, if we go to, there should be audio. Yeah, audio master volume starts at 100%, so we'll turn that down a little bit. Let's get it going here. We can set it to repeat loop, so when it hits the end, it'll play back from the beginning again, and we'll just let it go. So this is it at 100% volume. So I'll go back into the gear now and bring it down to like 80%. That way you can still hear me all right, but you can hear the music in the background. And just, you know, sit back and relax and enjoy the good vibes. So we'll hit next. Change it back to chat and dice. Moving around, great. Now that you have an idea of the layout, it's time to do some walking around. You can right-click and drag to pan around the map or navigate using a token. Select the crew member, your character, that's that thing we mentioned, on the map and drag them around to move. You can also use the directional arrows on your keyboard to move around the grid. Alright, so this will work a little bit better if we zoom in some more. So, to pan it, you can right-click with the mouse on here and just drag it around. So that'll let you see parts of the map that you aren't currently able to see. You can see especially as you zoom it in more, the map has these white grid lines all around here. And what else? We also have this selector. So you can select and move a token on the map. If you drag, you actually get a little box. You can do a box select of multiple tokens at a time. Or if you go to pan view, you can click with the left and drag around. That's useful if you have a computer that doesn't have a right click, like a Mac with the classic mouse, one button. But I'll go back to select and right click and drag down to here. So there's your character. So if we click it and select it, it gets this blue box around it, and you can see these 3 circles popped out. Those are useful for putting things like hit points, armor class, speed. If you're playing a game that has magic points, you could put magic points in there. Has a little name tag down here, so you can change the name of it to match whatever your character is. In a Dungeons and Dragons game, you would actually link this up to your character sheet, and whatever your character sheet name is would show up here as the character name. Or if you're DMing it, you might have a monster like a goblin dragged in there, and then it would say goblin to match up to the goblin NPC sheet. And you have this, which allows you to put different tokens and markers on it. In the basic one, I just have colored dots, so I could say like green dot. Green dot might represent something depending on what your game is like, and people usually use the X. It even says dead in the tooltip that pops up, but put a big red X on it if something gets killed. So let's try moving it around with the directional arrows. So I click on it, and I'll use the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'll go left, left, down, up, up, right, left. You can see the map seems to have this wall going around this area here. So one of the interesting things about this is that it's very much like a real tabletop. So if you have a map spread out on the table that you're all playing around, you can pick up your miniature and move it around on the map. And, you know, if there was a wall in the way, you could just pick the mini up, move it over the wall, drop it down into place. You can do pretty much the same thing here. Watch, I'll go left and up, up. So I just walked through the wall. Really, it doesn't care. There's no clipping in this mode. So it doesn't really matter too much. It's just like if you had actual paper and miniatures. So next step, the toolbar over here on the left. We'll find out about all these different things it can do. Awesome! But moving around's just the beginning. There are so many things you can do in Roll20. The home for all your actions is this toolbar. You already know what the magnifying glass does. That helps you get a better look at the map. Try out some of the other buttons now and see if you can roll a die or measure the distance between 2 squares. Okay, so roll a die. There's this D20 icon down here that pops out this handy chart. Has all sorts of different dice on it. So if we want to roll a D20, we can click the D20 here. And that puts a thing over here in the chat. It says which player is rolling the dice. roll a d20. You see the result of it here equals 16. And something seems to be wrong with the above roll. It failed verification. Well, I don't know exactly what that means for this tutorial that they've set up, but normally it'll just roll and have some result. And you can roll different types of dice. So you've got the d10, d12, d8. Scroll this down to catch up. So d8 gets a 6. And what about a d4? There it is, d4. Got a 4. And you see when you get the highest number on a die, it actually highlights it a different color to let you know, because some games that matters. You know, if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and you roll a natural 20 on an attack roll, that's a critical hit, automatic hit. So it's important to know for things like that. Any sort of modifiers that your character has in D&D will also just automatically get added on to attack rolls and ability checks and things like that. So that's the dice rolling. Oh, and you can also set it to roll multiple dice. So if you want to roll 3d6 or maybe 4d6 if you're creating a character, so you'd come out to the right, click on the 4 here, and you'll see it rolls 4 of them and then totals it all up for us. So you don't even have to do the math in your head. It's pretty handy like that. Now to measure, come down to this ruler icon. It has snap to center. You can show others, so if you're in a game with other players, you can all see the measurement, or you can hide from others if you want to secretly measure something without telling anybody what you're doing. And then you have snap settings that controls what point of the grid it'll snap to. So snap to center would put it in the middle of a box here. There's also snap to corner, so it'll jump to whatever the nearest corner point is. And then there's no snap, which does pretty much what it says. So I'll go snap to center and show to others. I'll click from, we'll see how far it is from my character to this edge out here in space. So I just click and drag 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 feet. So this is a 5-foot square map, and it can go, you can set it in the map settings to be whatever kind of distance you want. If it might be 5 feet, 10 feet, whatever like that. Other things that you can do that are kind of neat, again, if you have a right mouse button on your mouse, you can right click, and that'll set sort of a waypoint in your path. And now if you keep dragging out from there, you get a total measurement of, out here, 35 feet now. And I can even click again and keep doing this over and over. It'll tell you at the end arrow what your current total measurement is. And then as you drop points, it'll say how far along the path it was when it got to that point. And if you let go of the mouse button, the arrow goes away, just like that. So we'll go back to selections up here, select, and next. The page toolbar. What good is a spaceship that can't take you to other worlds? Click the blue page toolbar icon at the top, change maps. Right now you're the GM, the captain of this ship if you will. Lucky you! The GM controls what the players can see. By dragging the red player ribbon to a map, the GM can bring the players to that map instantly. Sometimes you'll want to visit a page alone to plan ahead. That's easy. Just click to that page yourself without bringing the player ribbon over, and you can take a quick peek. Let's hop over to the dashboard now. Click next once you're there. Alright, so we're going to hit this page toolbar button. That'll drop down a thing. And then there's the dashboard. So let's click over there now. So once this loads up, you can see, if I go back into the page toolbar again, this one is highlighted blue to show me this is the one that I'm currently looking at. But the players in the game, if there were players in the game, they would still all be sitting on Quantum Roll. So that's a handy thing to keep in mind when you're running games with players and you say, okay everybody, now you should be able to see this map of the cave or whatever, and they say, no, we don't see the cave, we still see the world map. And you go, oh, why is that? And then look at the pages. You're looking at the cave, they're still on the world map. So to get them over, you would just click on this ribbon that says players, drag it over here to the page that you're on and drop it. And then for them, their screen will all go fade to black and then fade back in and show the dashboard. Alright, now let's go to the next one. Drawing tools. Welcome to the dashboard. This world was built with Roll20 drawing tools and animations, but if you ask us, it's missing that personal touch. Access to the drawing tools by clicking the paintbrush on the toolbar and selecting freehand. Then add a doodle to the dashboard. Keep it PG, folks. That's very important. Although, is it really a D&D game if nobody's drawing anatomy on the background? Hopefully it is, but, you know. Freehand tools here. You can also do drawing shapes, so you can draw rectangles, circle, ellipse. Hold down shift to snap to the grid. That's useful if you want to make a square. There's also already a circle on here. There's a polygon line, so you move the mouse around and click to set the points of the polygon, and it'll draw straight lines from point to point, and then undo the last point with Control Z if you want, or right click it when you've completed the shape to fill in. You can also just add plain text, which I believe is what they did over on the right side on the to-do list, since this looks like an actual printed font rather than typing or drawing like they did up here. Shifty Dock Elf. So you can see where they've drawn stuff. You can see this E. I could probably drag it. Oh, it's a piece of the E anyway. So let's try that now. Let's try freehand and make a big red X right over here. So you can see it allows you to do some kind of wavy lines here. Alright, next up, chat. So now we're over into the right side to see what all these things are. Beautifully done. You've got the pictures down pat. Now let's chat about chat. These icons on the right of your screen let you access chat, which is visible by all players. Your art library, so that's going to be the second one with this image icon that says art library when you hover over it. Your journal, so these can be handout pages, they can be character sheets. The jukebox, so we showed that earlier to get the music going. Your collections, so these are things like macros. And your settings, so that was where we set all the music volume and lots of other things too. You can control what sort of camera options you're doing, so you could have your own webcam going down here in the bottom corner to show the other players. Let's see, what else do we have here? For now, click on the speech bubble icon to access the chat. We've done that. You already know how to roll dice from the toolbar, but you can roll dice here too. You can roll a 20-sided die by typing /roll 1d20. Rolling the dice, and it came up with an 8. Or you can type /r 1d20. D20 R. Came up with a 1 that time. So that's the other neat thing. If you get the lowest number on a die, it'll show it in red to help identify that it was a natural 1. What else can you do? You can leave the 1 off of the 1d20 and just do /r d20. If you don't put any number, it's assumed to be a 1. You can even roll dice that don't really exist, like you can /r d2. 2, so this would be useful if it was like a heads tails kind of thing. If you want to be really useless, you can roll a d1. Wow, I got a 1. Big surprise. So what else can we do? You can whisper roll Oh, you can whisper to a player by typing W, name, and message. So I'll do /W. If I start typing the name, any matching names will show up down here, and I can just click on that to put it in there. Let's say hi. And it'll whisper. So only that player will see that message, and not the rest of the players. So you can use that if there's some sort of special information that you need to give somebody. You can't really whisper right now since you're currently the only one in the game. Well, you can whisper to yourself. And then comes the journal. Dice, check. Movement, check. Doodles, double check. You've got most of the basics now. Let's talk about your character sheets. Your character sheets are kept safely inside your journal. Click the journal tab and open your character sheet. Inside, we'll show you how a character sheet works in Roll20. So we click on this. There's the your character, so we'll click on your character. And you get these little object things. Character sheet has your name. Character name is your character. They have various ability things that you could put in based on whatever this game is. Traits, the Samwise, the Warrior, the Beast Friend, the Bonded, the Con Artist, the Picasso. Lesson 1, using abilities. So let's go see what this can do here. Much like a delicious parfait, Roll20 has layers. 4 layers, in fact. Oh, they're not really going to do much about this this sheet here. So let's see, there are actually lessons on here, though. We can see what the lessons have. So almost every character sheet is going to store data of some kind. Ability scores, hit points, backstory, all of these are stored in attributes. In the fields above, decide how inquisitive, magnetic, or uplifting you are. So let's roll 3d6 here. Do /r 3d6. See what we get. An 11. Okay, so we'll put 11 into here. We'll do the same thing for magnetic. I'm just going to hit the up arrow, and that'll bring back whatever the last thing I typed into chat was, and I'll run it again. A 6. Oh, not very magnetic. Okay, and then we'll do that one more time for uplifting. Another 6. Okay, success, you did it. You ready to move on? Next. Alright, lesson 2, rolling dice. Nearly every character sheet will allow you to make some sort of dice rolls by clicking buttons. In this sheet, all of the dice roll buttons are indicated by a small purple hexagon. Click the title of one of the attributes you just changed in order to roll some dice. So this would be sort of like making an ability check in Dungeons & Dragons where it's d20 plus some modifier. So we can do an inquisitive check. You can see it rolls the dice for us right over here in the chat window. So rolling 1d6, 2 equals 2. So next up, adding to repeating sections. Sometimes character sheets might include a list of something, traits, talents, proficiencies, whatever. In these instances, it is common for a sheet to use a repeating section. You can add items to a repeating section with the Add Item button. Try changing a new talent and adding a value to it. Oh, try adding a talent. So we'll hit this plus button over here. And we can hit the edit. And we can say the fun and save. We can also possibly, this one doesn't really allow it, but some character sheets will have a kind of a dotted area where you can actually click on it and drag it to move them around. Oh, here they are. You click the lock to unlock it. Now I can click and drag and actually reorder things in this list. And then hit the lock again to lock it back into place. So that's handy. So next, Lesson 4, removing from repeating sections. Everyone makes mistakes. Luckily, it's possible to remove items. Use the padlock button below the list and then click the trash bin button next to an item to delete it. So over here on the right, trash bin, get rid of Picasso. Then reordering. That was the one I showed where you can drag it, move it around. So what's next? Hidden information. Sometimes to avoid overloading you with information, a sheet will include hidden item information that's only accessible via a button. You can see this in the traits above. Try clicking one of the expand or contract icons to toggle this behavior. So that's going to be this little plus sign over here. If we hit that, that'll show whatever we entered into the description box. So we can go to the next thing. Then edit mode. Often character sheets will conceal certain fields behind an edit mode toggle. In this instance, click the pencil to the right of one of the traits to edit its properties. So that brings up the name and description, and we can save changes to it. Alright, so that's the whole character sheet business. If we wanted to look at what the underlying attributes of things on the page are, they're right over here. Okay, so much like a delicious parfait, Roll20 has layers. 4 layers, in fact. Object and token layer for the map pieces that you'll interact with in the course of play, or the game pieces rather. The map and background layer for objects that'll remain static throughout the game. The GM info overlay layer, that's for Game Master's eyes only. And the dynamic lighting layer, which we will explore now. Navigate to the Character Vaults map using the page menu. Once you're there, open the dynamic lighting layer using the cube icon on the left side of the toolbar. Okay, so we're going to bring down the page menu, go to the Character Vaults. So this is a map that has dynamic lighting turned on. Dynamic lighting is a feature for anyone who is a plus level subscriber to Roll20 or pro level. So for this, we can go to the map, go to the dynamic lighting layer and click on it. And now you'll see all these purple lines appear all over the map. And light sources also show up. And it just became a little bit more crisper too. So we'll go next. Dynamic lighting is a fancy Roll20 specific system that updates players' lines of sight in real time. That means that players can only see the parts in the map that their characters would be able to see. You could adjust things like sight lines, field of vision, coloring of light, and more, all using dynamic lighting. This space is your playground to try dynamic lighting out. No changes you make here will save, and you're free to experiment as you wish. You want to see what a player will see with dynamic lighting, navigate to the Objects and Tokens layer and click on the Your Character token. Then press Ctrl L, Command L on Max. That'll show you the map from their perspective. So first I'll need to change back to Objects and Tokens. I'll go into the journal. There's the Your Character, so I'll drag this and I'll drop it right here into this room. And there's the little token for it. Snapping into place here. Now we click on it, select it, and then Control L. This token does not have vision enabled. Oh no. How do we fix that? Well, we just click on your character, click on this gear icon here, and it brings up token settings. So represents your character. You can pick one of the character sheets to have it mapped to. Your character nameplate is there. R1 values. We could, if we wanted to, we could pick the attributes here, like inquisitive. You can see now 11 shows up in R1. You can also set minimum and maximum values, which are kind of handy. Let's see, so we want to go to dynamic lighting now. Dynamic lighting, and what do we want to do? We want to turn on vision. Gives the ability to see if there's light or if night vision is enabled. Tokens with vision rather can see to the edge of the available light. We'll turn this one on and save settings. Now if we select the character again, if it took the settings correctly, Control L should reveal what's in the room, and it does. So now we can just see what's around here. Basically this brazier right here is casting light, and you can see the further away you get from it, the less light there is, so the darker the map shows around it. We'll click off the character, and that brings us back into the main map view. Since we're the dungeon master, we can see things like that. So if we go down to, which thing here? The dynamic light layer again. So dynamic lighting, you can see that there's these blue lines that are for walls, and then there are these orange lines here for doors. And if we wanted to move it so that you could go walking around, you can actually click on the door, select it, and you can move it either by dragging the mouse or by using the arrow keys on the keyboard, just like you can for your own token. So I'll just hit the right arrow and move it out into space here. Now I'll go back into the object layer and see what sort of changes the character can see with Control L. So now the character can see down this way a little bit. So I'll move it down with the arrow key, and once I cross the threshold here, now I can see back into this room. But notice that the hallway down here is dark because there's nothing down in here casting light, and in fact the brazier casts light down around this corner. Let me move back into the room so you can see it, and Control L again. So there's line of sight involved here. So the brazier that was here, you notice that there was a little triangle right over here that was visible, kind of like this corner here. So now if we go back and select the character again, pay attention to that corner. The light's shining down here, but this part is shaded by this wall stretching out. Now if we go back into dynamic lighting again and select this wall and move it out of the way here, then go back to objects and pick your character and Control L again to update. There. So now we can see over this way. If we pan the map over, there's actually another brazier down here lighting up this room. So if we move down, so as you move, your character has line of sight into here, and you can see through this doorway, but you can't see this part of the room down here because the wall is obstructing your view. So if you walk left with the left arrow keys, as you get closer to the door, your field of vision opens up wider, just like as if you were looking through a real door. So take another step, it's wider. Now I'll step into the room. Well, actually, I guess this is the hallway between. Now I'm fully into the room, so I can see all the way up here. This other brazier top is lighting up this area. And you can see the way that they do it, they have the brazier itself is just drawn on the map here. But if I go back to dynamic lighting layer and I select it here, you can see this is actually a light source. And if I go to, let's see, I guess double click on it maybe. That'll bring up the properties. So we can say it doesn't have vision, it emits bright light at a distance of 20 feet, and then low light at a distance of another 20 feet. And it has a changeable brightness level. So basically what that does is it accounts for things like in Dungeons and Dragons where you have dimly lit areas that cause different things to happen, like to your perception checks. You'd be rolling at disadvantage if it was in dim light. And then that makes it so that the player gets a more realistic view of what their character is seeing. And then total light just adds the two of them together to say this is as far as the light emits from there. Now if I move my character over more, we'll go back to objects and tokens, Control L to show me what I see. If I move over to the left, now I can start to see around this corner here. But the light only makes it down about this far, because this one up here, we bring out the measuring tool, this one up here, 40 feet, only comes down to about here. So that's where the light ends. So now it's only this other brazier here that's lighting, and it gets stuck on the wall just like the other one did before. However, we should be able to see all the way down into this area, and this brazier here should be lighting it up. So let's try that out. If I select my character and Control L again to preview, hey, you can see down here there's actually some light showing that's casting from this brazier. We can't see the brazier itself because it's around the corner, but we could say, hey, there's something down there, let's go check that out. So I click my character, use the down arrows to move around. Now I'm walking through the dark. Now what's interesting, with these walls that are drawn on the side here, there are ways to set it up so that those walls with the dynamic lighting will actually block the tokens from being able to move through them. Unlike that first map that we looked at where I could just move through the wall. So if I go left here, I'm hitting the left arrow and it's not allowing me to go. If I try to drag it, I can drag up and down within that hallway. If I try to go left, I get stuck on the wall, and same thing if I try to go right, I get stuck on that wall. And it should just snap back into place. So now I can continue going down, go down, 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 and down a little bit. So now that I'm getting closer to the room, I can start to see around this corner, and I can see, oh yeah, there's a light source down here. It's this brazier. I can move around this wall, move up into this hallway, and then I run out of light again. Can't see too far around that corner there, unless I remember, oh yeah, I'm the DM, all I have to do is click off my character on the map, and then I'll be back to full view of the map. So that's much all the fun stuff with dynamic lighting. What's next after that? One of the things to keep in mind with it is that it does eat up a lot of CPU, so if you have a really large map with a lot of walls, you might find that it takes a long time for the map to load, and any movement that you do in that map takes a long time to update when you drop your piece or when you move your piece around with the arrow keys. They'll move and then lag for a little bit, and then they finally move. So let's go next here. Keep exploring. There are so many more things to see and discover here. Once you've explored to your heart's content, check out our Looking for Group feature to find a group to play with. If you want to dive deeper and master your maps, check out some of our video tutorials. Those are pretty good tutorials. None of your changes in this game will save, and you can't invite other players. When you're ready to move on and make your first real game with other players, head over to the Create New Game page. Happy rolling! There's a little finish button you can hit, and you can see they've made a couple of handouts in the journal here. They put them under a handouts folder that's collapsible, so you can collapse and expand it. I click on Roll20. This brings up a handout that has a graphic image here, and you can scroll down with the scroll wheel or this drag slider on the right here. Capital of the floating isles of the polyhedral dimension. The royal castle is built inside the natural crystalline structure of the ancient gods. And then GM notes, visible only to GM, so players looking at this handout won't see that part. There's a quest. The princess requires a tonic from the far reaches of the Bone Dice Wastes. it can be cut from the heart of the luck cactus. And if you're doing something special and you want to show your players the handout that you're looking at, you just hit this Show to Players button, and then all of the players will have it pop up on their screen at the same time, which is kind of a nice feature. If you want to share a handout that you've prepared and show them that it's available. And you can also control which handouts the characters or the players can see. These blue dots indicate that all of the players can see it. So again, if I bring this up and click on Edit at the top here, so in players' journals, whose journals? All players. So you could set that, or you can set it to just specific players in the game if you want only certain players to see it. So if you have a handout that you're hiding to keep it secret until some big surprise happens, then you can suddenly reveal it. So that's the tutorial view, and now let's hop over and look at what it looks like if you're in an actual campaign. If you want to create a new campaign from this main game, if you do create your first game from this page, it'll bring you to this new campaign page. You put a name for your game in here. You can add tags to help people find it. And then down here you can optionally choose a character sheet and tell it what game you're playing, and then if it has a character sheet pre-made for that game, it'll allow you to pick it in here. So I can go D&D 5e by Roll20, and that'll bring in, gives you a little preview here. But you can see it looks like a typical Dungeons & Dragons character sheet. So it has all the 6 ability scores here, and for 5th edition it has all of the skills. You can put checkboxes to mark which skills you have proficiency in, and then it automatically calculates the modifiers based on your proficiency bonus, which is here, and whatever ability it uses. And then that way when you click on the skill, it'll roll a d20 and then add whatever this modifier is to it. Same sort of thing with these weapons and attacks. So there are things like heavy crossbow here, and there's a plus whatever bonus to it based on the proficiency score and the dexterity modifier. And it has drag and drop compendium ability, so there's a list of items and you can drag from the list of items and drop it down into your items to automatically put it in the sheet with the correct weight and all of the different, if it's a weapon or armor, it'll have all the different modifiers on it. So once you get into it here, you hit the I'm ready create game button and wait, it'll take you into your game and you'll just have a nice blank map page to work with. So if I go over to my journal, I see that there's nothing here yet. If I want to create a character, I'll click on the add button and do character. It gives you a randomly generated name. It's not going to be in any player's journals until you tell it. And then down here, let's see, we can hit save changes, and that creates a character. At the start of it, I believe it's okay, yeah, here you can tell it how to use it. You can use the character mancer to build a character, or you can create an NPC, or you can edit the character sheet directly. So we'll try using the character mancer because that's fun. So this is sort of like a wizard tool for building your character. And we'll hit next on here. So first step, choose what race you want. We'll go simple. We'll pick the human. SRD is the standard rules document for Dungeons & Dragons, so not all of the features of the player's handbook, but just the most basic things. It's SRD. You can choose what alignment you want. We'll go lawful good. Languages, so a human gets a language proficiency. You can choose a language, so we'll say Elvish. And for a subrace, you can do standard human, or you can do custom subraces. So we'll do standard human. So standard human's going to get a +1 to all of their ability scores. So we'll go next and choose which class we want. We'll pick fighter. So it tells you what weapon proficiencies you get, what armor proficiencies you get, and you can pick 2 skills. So I'll pick acrobatics and animal handling. And then level 1 fighter, you can pick a fighting style. So we'll go with, let's see, we'll go with defense. That's a good one. Gives you a bonus when you're wearing armor. You're probably going to be wearing armor all the time, so get that +1. You get a second wind bonus action that you can use once during combat. And you get some starting equipment. So next, ability scores. When you're first starting out with a free account, you don't have any different ways of rolling ability scores directly in the tool here. So we could just use the standard set, which is going to be 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. And you could put those numbers on anything you wanted on here. For a fighter, obviously it's good to have it on strength, have that high. Dexterity and constitution are also good to have. And we'll go next. Because it's a human, all of these numbers will get added a +1 to them. So you can see it went from 15 to 16 here, and likewise for all the other numbers. Choose a background. The only one that they give you from the SRD is Acolyte. So Acolyte, you gain skills in Insight and Religion, and language proficiencies. So we'll choose Dwarvish and Gnomish. And you get Shelter of the Faithful as your feature for that background. And you can roll for personality traits, which is kind of neat. So if I click on roll here, that little boop noise indicates that something happened in the chat. So personality trait, I quote or misquote sacred texts and proverbs in almost every situation. And you can roll a second one. I've enjoyed fine food, drink, and high society among my temple's elite. Rough living grates on me. And my mouse actually clicked it a second time, but I got the same roll the second time. Ideal. Faith. I trust that my deity will guide my actions. I have faith that if I work hard, things will go well. A bond. I owe my life to the priest who took me in when my parents died. Aww. Such a nice priest. And a flaw. My piety sometimes leads me to blindly trust those that profess faith in my God. Oh, that could be an interesting character. Alright, and then you get the equipment that comes along with that background. So next, how would you like to choose your equipment? We'll just go with class equipment. So for a fighter, you get choice of chainmail or leather armor, longbow, and arrows. So since I picked the defense style, we'll go with the higher AC, we'll go with the chainmail. 2 of shield or any martial weapon. So yeah, let's take a shield. It's good to have. Shield, martial weapon. Let's go with the longsword. That's your classic sword and board fighter. Light crossbow and crossbow bolts times 20, or 2 hand axes. It's good to have a nice long range weapon, so we'll go with the light crossbow and bolts. And then a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. The Dungeoneer's pack, I believe, comes with more things like metal spikes, so torches. We'll go with that one. And from the Acolyte, you get to pick either a prayer book or a prayer wheel. Let's go with a prayer book. And click on next again. You don't get any spells as a first level fighter, so this section doesn't do anything. Next up is feats. You also don't get any feats at first level unless you're using Player's Handbook rules and you have the variant human. Variant humans can pick a feat at first level. And bio, you can fill in little traits about your character: age, height, weight, eye color, hair color, skin color. And they give you little things over in here. speed of 30. And then you get to review all the information at the end that you picked and apply changes. We'll go through this and update all the values in the character sheet. And it changes from character mancer to character sheet. And we can see the skills I picked down here are checked, just like the saving throws that you get proficiency in. You can see the modifiers calculated. So my 16 strength gives me a +3 modifier. My 9 charisma gives me a -1 modifier. So the actual ability score is the smaller number in the bubble, and then the larger number is the modifier because you use the modifier more. We can resize the window and make it a little easier to see. They have a little inspiration box here, so if your dungeon master uses inspiration, you can check that, get a little dragon or not. You get your armor class calculated, so it's going to be 16 for my chainmail armor, which is right here. If I click on chainmail, where would that be? I think the dot here. Yeah, if you click on this dot, that's your expansion thing. So checkmark is equipped. If I were to take it off, so my total armor class is 16 for the chainmail, +2 for the shield, +1 due to my fighting style defense, since I'm wearing armor. Now if I were to take that off, I would lose the 16 from the armor and go down to just 10, and I would also lose the +1 for defense. But I would gain +2 because of my natural dexterity, and +2 for the shield, so it should change to 15. We'll see if my math is right. If I uncheck equipped, sure enough it changed to 15. So it automatically calculates all that stuff for you based on the situation. So I can turn chainmail back on here, it'll go back up to 19. Initiative +2, that's just going to be your dexterity modifier. Speed is 30 for a human. Hit points, you start with whatever the maximum is for your class. So fighter starts with 10, and I get +2 because of +2 constitution modifier. And 1 hit die, which is a d10. So if I was going to roll that to regain some hit points, I just hit the click on the hit dice there. I can see all the personality things that I picked. I've got my longsword. I can roll it one-handed and do a d8 +3 slashing damage with a +5 attack bonus. So you can see here, and it rolled twice. The reason why it rolled twice is because by default it's rolling with advantage. Now that can be handy just so that you don't have to make changes to things in between. Normally you just look at the left number, but if the DM says you've got advantage on it, then you can look at both numbers. Same thing if they tell you that it's disadvantage. And then down in here, I've got all my starting equipment. So hammer and pitons and torches and tinderbox and all that good stuff. And if I want to, let's see, I would like to put my fighter on the map now. So I'm going to drag it by the name here, drop it onto the grid, and I get just this little person icon. And so far it's not really showing me anything too useful, so I'm going to click on the gear here, and we can see you've got the representation of the character. If I want to see the name under it, I'll click on nameplate here and save settings, and now the name shows up underneath it. So if I go back into it again, let's say I want to see hit points here for bar 1. So if I go to hit points in here, where are hit points? H, hit. History, hit die roll, hit dice. Oh, wait, I think I saw it. HP, there it is. So you click on HP, because hit points are something that have a maximum built in, it'll say 12 out of 12, and it'll actually show it as a bar over the icon here, which is kind of handy. So number 2, we'll make the number 2 be the AC, because that's good to have at a glance. If the DM is attacking you and says, what's your armor class, to see if it hits or not, and you can just look right there and say it's 19. You don't even need to look at your character sheet. And the third one, I usually use it for speed, so I'll go S-P-E-E, ooh, gotta type faster, S-P-E-E-D, speed, 30, so I can remember how fast I go. Save settings, and if I want to look at markers, now I get the full set because I'm not in the tutorial anymore. So there are things like sleepy, there's a half heart here, there's a snail, there's the ninja. I usually use ninja mask if somebody's using stealth. There's a net, fishing net, lightning bolt, falling down with a bunch of arrows stuck in their back. That's a fun one. The back pain one, I usually use that if somebody's been knocked prone. And then a target is usually if somebody is using a help action or something like that to target somebody, giving advantage. Alright, so that's all for that. What else can we do with this? Quick way to get to the character sheet. If you hold the shift key on your keyboard and double click on it, that'll bring you the character sheet here. The character sheet. If you double click on the title of the character sheet in this area, it'll shrink it down and then you can just move it around. So if you have too many sheets to manage and not enough room on your screen, you can always shrink it like that and move them around. And then double click on that again to bring it back to normal. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the useful stuff in here. Oh, other things that you'll want to see. The DM tells you to roll for initiative. You're first going to want to click on your character, your token on the map. By clicking on your token, that will allow the token to show up in an initiative list. So then we can double click on the name. And if you click the word initiative here, it'll roll it just like it'll roll most other things that light up red when you roll over them like that. So I'll go ahead and click initiative. And you can hear that it rolled. Oh, look, a natural 20 shows up in green. So 20 plus 2 gives 22. And now if I bring up the clock here, this is the initiative tracker. Oh, but it didn't do anything. Maybe because I didn't have that loaded up to start with. Well, let's try it again. Now that I've got it up, selected the character, click on initiative. There we go. And it shows right up here with the 20. And this is the token representation for the character. So if I picked a different token there, it would show up differently. Like I can take it out of initiative. Let's go ahead and change the default token here. We'll go to edit, default token. You can drag a file from your art library or your computer. So I'll go to my art library and see, we'll take a look at free assets. What do we have in here? Characters. So you can have like a soldier. We'll use a knight, that sounds cool. So if I drag the knight over into here and drop it, that is now my default token. So let's see. What I want to do is, actually, yeah, then we'll edit token properties. Oh, but all my presets went away. Now I have to set them again. So I just type in HP and AC. We'll leave out speed this time. Save settings. And apply token defaults. Oh, we don't want to. All 1 tokens representing on the page will be overwritten. Are you sure? Ooh, let's cancel that first. So move this over so we can actually see the magic happen. Click on apply token defaults. Overwrite that 1, and there it is. So now we've got our actual little character there. So now if I was to drag that character on, Go like that. And if I hit the delete key on it, select, delete, makes it go away. Now if we go into here, and we can do the same thing up here for the avatar. I can't drag that one though. But I can go night, drop it onto here, and save changes. So now you can see this is the top-down view. And it should update it in my journal now, so I can have that visual representation to quickly find what they look like. Drop them onto the screen here. So that is all the good stuff, I think. We've got the character here. If we double click it, go back to character sheet and roll initiative. So now you actually see the token in here in the turn order. And if we have multiple characters on there, so if we let's go ahead and make an NPC, and we'll add character, and we'll call it Goblin. Save changes. And so on character sheet, for this one, we will just say create an NPC. There we go. And now it's all set, so we can go back into here. We'll drag the goblin onto the map and open up its character sheet again. And then, let's see, we click on the gear here. Oh, we can name it Goblin. And get it back to its regular sheet. Now if we click on this init thing here, we see Goblin 13. We can also rearrange them in order. And if we click on the gear, that brings up turn order settings. So if you have a big group of players, you don't want to have to manually drag them all into the right order. So once everybody has rolled into initiative, you can just click on descending, and then it'll roll from highest initiative order to lowest. One thing that I like to do here is add a custom item. I call it round, and put +1 on here for the calculation. So we start with round 0, and if you want to count, you can count it at 1 to start with. Then when somebody takes their turn and it moves on to the next person in order, you click this right arrow to move it. So now the goblin is up, and all of the players see this turn order pop up on their screen. They can't step through and change it the way the DM can, but they can also see what the turn order is. And once we go past the goblin, it becomes round 2, and it just automatically added 1 to that. So you can also use that for spell effects that last a certain number of rounds. So you can do a -1 and say, like, you know, start it at 10 rounds, and then every time it comes back around to that spell effect, it'll subtract 1 from it till you get down to 0, and then that reminds you that, oh yeah, that spell ended. Alright, well, I think that's everything. Hope you enjoyed watching this, and hope that you'll give Roll20 a shot and find some good games to play in, maybe one of my games. The VOD for this will go up on YouTube after I edit it. Hopefully I get a good recording this time. Last time I tried this, it was really choppy and not very usable. So, alright, peace out. Have a good night.